Howdy everybody, I'm Kolik and this is Summer's War. Alright, so we've been talking about how to optimize runes, especially Rune Optimizer, okay? But to give you an idea of what the real differences between all these speed leaders and things like that are, you need to take a look at a couple of tools that I have got, and I will link in the description, for calculating your speed, and specifically based on the speed of your monster, how fast your other guys need to be. Now, this first one is the one I find easier to use, but the second one has some interesting pieces of information in it that I actually want to go over first. So let me look at that. This is the speed taking calculator spreadsheet. Okay, to gain access to it, if you want, you need to go over to File and click Make a Copy and say OK. As long as you have a Google Docs account, you can now view it and enter stuff into the data fields. Alright, so what is really cool about this tool is you can take a look at each of the pages, and you can scroll down to the bottom, okay, and we'll tell you what percent of your attack buffer's speed your other units have to be to match it. So to make the math simple, we'll make it 300 speed Bernard. That's pretty dang fast, but we'll say 300 speed. So that means that if you just use Bernard, your last unit has to be at least 225 speed. That's pretty fast. Now this does include towers, okay, which does not appear usually on your monster sheet in the game, but it's very hard to be able to get the damage stats that you need on your guys with just Bernard, because you have to have that much speed. Okay, this is the problem with trying to use Seek in these kind of lineups. Seek does not increase the attack bar. He does give crit rate, which is nice, okay, but you have to have a lot of speed, and these speed stats are in high demand, so it's kind of difficult to be able to get enough. Okay, so let's go say we're going to use Orion, Tiana, or Kabila instead. Well, let me tell you something. We'll go ahead and put in there a base speed. Alright, if you notice on these guys, they have to be 83%. So Bernard, you only have to be 75. Tiana, Orion, or Kabila, you have to be 83. So if you are 300 speed Orion, okay, you would have to be 83% of that. That's not 225. Okay, that's 249. So the difference is you have to be 24 speed more to be able to be synced with Orion than with Bernard. Wow, that's 4 max speed rolls additional. That's really hard to get. Okay, now the next guys are a little bit easier to deal with. Purian and Frigate, who by far the better one there is Frigate, because Frigate has a lot higher base speed than Purian. They buff by 50% attack bar, which means they pretty much are about the same as Bernard. In fact, they're actually a little bit better, but they have a little bit worse base speed. Okay, so a Frigate, 300 speed Frigate, would only have to be 213 speed to be synced with Frigate. Well, that's better. It's definitely better, but you'd have to have faster runes. And the only way you're going to... So, if you had the same set of runes on Bernard versus Frigate, your Bernard would move first. Okay? So, it eases the requirements on your other monsters, but toughens the monster requirements you need on your Frigate. Okay? That's pretty tough, because the faster your attack bar buffer is, basically the higher you can move in arena. So if you voluntarily give up speed, then you're going to not be able to beat as many teams. That's kind of what it comes down to. Of course, Bernard also has the fact that attack speed, will buff those monsters that rely on speeds, like Theomars and some other guys, homunculuses, chimeras, things that scale with speed. Okay. Now the most common one used is this one, Megan and Bernard. And the reason is because Bernard will buff first. You can put your fastest speed set on him. But Megan only needs 74%. Notice not 75. Like just Bernard alone, 74. Okay, so Megan only has to be 74% of Bernard's speed. So it has to be 222 on a 300 speed Bernard. After speed tower. Okay, that's actually really easy to get. I mean, when you're talking about high-end speed runes here, there's 300 talking Bernard, right? And only need 222 on Megan? I mean, like, wow, that's a huge difference. But the big difference is that the last unit only has to be 64% of Bernard's speed. So 64%, you're talking, it only needs to be running 192. Okay, after tower bonus. Okay, so you can save off 33 speed off your Lucians. That's, wow, that's 6 rolls, okay, of speed that you don't need. 6 rolls that could be rolled into attack percent, crit damage, crit rate. This is why it's the most popular setup, is because, quite frankly, you can have all these extra stats that you can have that you can be allocated to other stats that will do damage. Otherwise, you just won't hit hard enough. Now, if you're a little bit better, somewhat, Bernard and Bastet. These are very useful units. Bastet is basically a slightly improved Megan. Not in every case, though. Okay. Megan has an attack, blocking, and strip that Bastet does not have, which means that Megan is very helpful in killing Arena off in high-end Guild Wars for stall defenses. Arenas just don't work very well because of Megan. Now, if you're going to do this, remember that you put on the block beneficial buff near the start of Arena's turn, because it only lasts 1 turn, not at the end. It's kind of an important point. Alright, so these are all assuming no speed leaders too. If you have a speed leader, these can change things up a little bit, and it'll take those into calculations. Okay, then there's Megan alone, and Megan, you have to be 89% of Megan's speed. Wow, so if you had a 300 speed Megan, okay, your next guy would have to be, wow, 267 speed. So he has to be on Swift. I mean, there's no way, right? And so every one of your monsters have to be on Swift. That's a lot of stats to give up. Alright, finally, Bastet alone. She's a little bit better than Megan. You only have to be at 86%. So this should give you an idea of what the trade-offs are. Okay, could be a faster base speed, but your other monsters have to give up damage stats in order to be able to take advantage of that. Same for Orion, or actually Orion is slower than Bernard, but he does have a possible stun, possible armor break on a random unit, of course. Definitely makes him better in Guild Wars, where it's a little bit more predictable, and the fact that he combines both an armor break and a attack bar buff and a stun and a heal block can also be useful in the same turn makes him pretty cool because of that. His extra turn capabilities is also pretty cool. Again, that takes more an effect of Guild Wars, not Arenas. In Arenas, Orion is basically there to provide a big question mark to your opponent. Okay, that stun will randomly deny him the ability to do something. It's not so much matching speed sometimes in Arena. It's more about just screwing up their combo. if you can mess up their combo, okay, by one of these methods, then you can probably win. And the other methods usually are Nemesis Rune Healers, Praha, Aerial, are two of the better ones. But there's also definitely others, Light and Darks, things like that. And the third one is basically running a bunch of fire type monsters. Of course, fire type monsters are vulnerable to water monsters, so if you just have a speed water clearing team, it works pretty well, even though it's a little bit slower than Lucians. So it's not really a great solution. The fact the Lucians are so powerful definitely shapes high-end arena, and it makes building your own a very powerful tool to increase your enjoyment of arena. Alright, so showing you this one, and what's interesting about this, the other one is pretty easy to use. I found it a lot easier to use this one than the other one, because this one all you have to do is enter your rune speed. The other one you have to enter each individual rune speed. Okay, you have to enter the tower speed. Now my tower is at 15, so I'm going to leave it at that. My Bernard is, you enter the monster. My Bernard is at 188, I think. Okay, and then we're going to go with Megan. Okay, and then we'll go with Lucian and Lucian. Alright, so if you've got this calculate monster speed off, okay, it will tell you what rune speed you need right here. This is a it's showing the total monster speed that you would enter. Okay, this is actually a little bit wrong. Mine is 301 now. Alright, so this shows me that I need, with a 301 speed, I need a 221 speed Megan. Notice this counts speed towers, so the other one, when I was talking about 300, that would include the speed tower and the DV sync. So that's why I find this one a little bit easier to use. So anyway, this one tells me on my spreadsheet, on my sheet, on paper, on the, not a sheet paper, but on the screen, the monster screen, I would have to have a total of 301 speed on my Bernard, and to match that I would need 221 speed on Megan. Now, putting that back off, it just says, that says will be plus 124 speed is what I need. And the Lucians would only need 89 and 88, and they would be synced. Now, the problem with this is that it's going to be synced, but you still can get cut in front of by a Nemesis healer. So, it's important to know that extra speed can help. However, I don't think any amount of excess speed is going to help a well-runed double Nemesis healer. You will not be able to outspeed that. You need to be able to take another option, or, as suggested recently by another YouTuber, triple Lucian. Well, triple Lucian can be pretty interesting because a lot of those teams that are relying on Nemesis healers don't have an attack bar buffer. So you don't need to beat him with your Bernard, which means it opens up to using Megan triple Lucian. That's a pretty interesting option. But most people don't have two Lucians, and those who do usually not sure have three. So that's an option that may not be available to everybody. Alright, so that's going to end part 3, because we're going to talk about the speed calculator, and we're going to go back on to grindstones and chants, how to use them and stuff, in part 4. This is Kolek signing out.